Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Discourse for the week of December 7th, 2020. The Discourse is our weekly news show here at the NYU Game Center, the game design department at New York University. Each week, Professors Frank Lance and Naomi Clark talk about game industry news and give us their scorching hot takes. Take it away, Frank and Naomi.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hey.
Welcome to the Discourse. It's the last week of classes at the NYU Game Center this week, and we have one more show for you coming up next week. So this is the penultimate Discourse of the year of 2020, I think, right?
Yep, it's exciting.
So we've already had questions from Danny Hawk about whether we're going to look at the Cyberpunk reviews that just came out an hour ago. And I found one. I have to say, I found one, and this is one that I have not run by Logan. But I found one which, I haven't even looked at it, but I think we should just go straight to this.
Go on the fly.
Just go right there, Logan.
We're gonna do it live.
Yeah, do it live. Is that your Bill O'Reilly impression?
Yeah, that was my Bill O'Reilly impression.
Yeah. So this review, it caught my eye because of the because of the headline, and I didn't even see who wrote it. But it's from Carolyn Pettit. Yeah, who I've enjoyed her reviews before. Logan, did you get that one in Zoom chat? Yeah, there we go.
Find it.
Look at this. Boom.
Boom. There we go. Like a guy with a visor and a katana. What's more cyberpunk than that?
Welcome to the penultimate Discourse is also the subtitle of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077.
Coincidentally.
So Carolyn says Cyberpunk 2077 is dad rock, not new wave. This fits perfectly. This is what I love to see. Just confirmation bias that supports my own theories of a studio's creative arc. Because CD Projekt Red has grown more and more mature with every game that they've put out. Their earliest big game, the first Witcher game, was just like a 12-year-old's game. The second Witcher game was like an obnoxious 16-year-old. The third Witcher game was somebody in their late 20s, early 30s. And then this is clearly like a 43-year-old's video game. So
there's one problem with this metaphor. Do you know what my problem with this metaphor is, Naomi?
Oh, I skipped over the Witcher board game and the Witcher card game. Is that
no? The problem with this metaphor is that new wave is quintessential dad rock.
It's true. It's
new
true.
wave is dad rock.
Yeah, it is dad rock now. And so So what's Carolyn's point? I guess the idea is that that somehow new wave is what. Well, here's the thing. There is no exact time period anymore for what is youth music, because now youth music is of every era at once, right? Yeah. And so maybe this was expected to be some kind of, I don't know, as cool as Vaporwave was 2 years ago video game, and of course it's not, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this gives me the vibe of a Rush album.
Ah, right. Yeah.
It's that kind of futurism, right? It's the 2012. What was the name of the Rush album? 2112 or something? It's that kind of, little Geddy Lee, very high-pitched vocals and a lot of squirrely guitar noodling. That's what I'm getting. Yeah. That's the vibe I'm getting from this.
Exactly. A drum set with 18 drums on it. And you're sort of thinking wait, do I hear all 18 of those drums? What's going on here? I don't have enough time to listen to this album enough to really tell whether I can appreciate it or not, because it's just too much. Yeah. Well, the YYZ of games.
Do we know whether the plot of Cyberpunk 2077 involves the government's attempt to shut down video games?
It's a
because
good
if it
question.
did,
There's
that
like
would
a
really
little,
make it like a Rush era prog rock concept album, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, I think we're just gonna have to investigate. I have to say I almost bought Cyberpunk 2077 on the Stadia. Just I
This
almost
looks like We Should Talk.
it does. Like, well,
Is this a screenshot from We Should Talk?
They're ripping off We Should Talk for sure.
This looks kind of good. This makes me maybe want to play Cyberpunk 2077.
They've got that. It's that vaporwave lighting. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not for me. Gotta manage on your own. Wow, I can't wait to choose to say that.
Yeah, that's some real flavor. Rather not kill anyone. You can count on me.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if that's following any of the like classic three choice dialogue styles that like have been popularized by the British invasion of narrative designers. Was there like an accept, reject, deflect in there? I don't think so. I think they're all just generic. Well, dialogue's never been.
Interface looks kind of good. I don't hate this interface.
It's not terrible. I mean, I will spend some time playing this game, if only so that I can try to understand CD Projekt Red a little bit better, especially their attitudes about sex, which is really the only thing that kind of slowly, gradually evolves across their games.
Yeah,
all right.
I don't have any interest at all about what they have to say on any of those things, but I do like big, high production value video games. I like, and I don't like
big open world.
So I guess there'll be a lot of head shooting.
Yeah, well, maybe they're taking a page from Deus Ex and allowing you to just hack your way through everything. You know, because
well, in that case, I will skip it entirely. I will just skip the entire. I will hack my way around the entire game. Right? Is that one of the options?
That's probably one of the
emergent
options. Yeah, exactly. It's like you enter this code and the game's already over, and it self destructs. And
take that, Warren Spector.
Exactly. Or you could dialogue your way through the game. If you have a high enough speech skill, you just get to pick. You get one more option that's like, okay, but what do I get out of it? That's the fourth dialogue option.
Ooh, I did find that persuasive, Naomi. Right? You must have rolled a critical.
Yeah. All right. Let's go
back on track.
Pre-curated news items. All right, so Super Nintendo World, a new amusement park theme ride at Universal Studios. Like I'm a little unclear.
Is this perhaps a tad early for them to be announcing this? Do you feel like is the timing on this perfect, or is it just a little bit early to be announcing your new theme park?
They have to build up anticipation, you know. I mean, probably opening it on February 4th is a little early, but this is in Osaka, where I mean, the progression of the pandemic is a little bit different there, but I think that they're not going to get a lot of visitors on February 4th. Let me put it that way. But it may not matter in quite the same way that it would in other places. But so this is an AR ride, and so what's interesting to me about this is that it actually has some game-like elements. Like you can fire power-ups at other people inside of this ride.
I believe that you're competing with the coaster. There's like two trains running simultaneously, and it is your train versus the one next to yours. I think how it works.
Nice. Well, I sort of buy that, I guess. Yeah, and it's great because it's AR, right? Like the VR version of this is sort of boring, right? It's like, oh, I'm just sitting inside of a plastic car, but I'm, like have a helmet on. The AR version of this is like, I'm terrified because I'm actually on a roller coaster and I'm trying to fire power-ups at the other roller coaster, which is like, I buy that idea, I guess. Yeah.
It does not tickle my fancy. I'm a huge dark ride fan. I love Space Mountain. I love experiential coasters that are about more than just physics. But I don't particularly love the rides I've done where I'm trying to accomplish a task. And maybe this is telling me something about games,
It maybe does feel a little bit like you're trying to like add some extra stuff on top of the purity
of the mindset of like a one-off trying to like figure out a thing that I'm doing. I want to sit back and get taken on a ride.
Right. So, but dart coasters, that's where you like you can't quite tell how you're moving except from like the inertia and gravity, and so it's a little bit disorienting. Is that's the kind of
well, there's lots of lights, obviously, in dart coasters. Sure. I mean, there's lots of neon and stuff.
But you don't get that.
Like, I think if they had just leaned in, if it had just been about the experiential qualities of AR, I would be more excited about this. But that doesn't fit with. I mean, obviously the theme. This is going to be an interesting test for their whole park. Like how much of their park is going to be interactive in ways that are borrowed from the games and maybe don't quite work. Do you know what I mean? Like in a theme park setting, maybe they'll figure it out and maybe they do work. I assume that lots of smart, clever people are working on this. So
yeah, we'll see.
I guess I would go check it out.
Yeah, they do have a pretty decent culture of roller coaster design in Japan. They have some big ones, although they're really into big drops over there, so it's a little bit different. Yeah.
And what park is this? The Universal?
Yeah, it's a Universal Studios in Osaka. Yeah.
What's the deal there between Universal and Nintendo? Is that just a?
Who knows? It could be a Japan only thing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next story. This one, I believe. Oh yeah, so here's that. This is an interesting one, right? Because I feel like the take here is not exactly what it would appear to be on the surface. So this is a tweet that was sent in to us by Chris Wallace, and what it is it's somebody keeps sending nature photos, landscape photos into their local TV station. Which has a segment that's for snapshots of the local area, and but they're not really snapshots from the real world. They're from Red Dead Redemption, right? So I guess there's one story here which to me is like the surface level story of like, oh my gosh, how hilarious these video games are, so realistic that nobody can even tell the difference between the real world and the video game world, right? Like, good job, Bella McGuire, right? It's a good prank, right? But I don't know. Of course, I think it's the opposite is actually the story, right? You know what I mean, right? It's that these news shows are not real. They were never real.
Yeah, and there is no outdoors anymore.
Yeah, there's no outdoors. It's all totally virtual. And like
Red Dead like Red Dead Redemption is a world that they've built to make this world appear to be real.
Right. Yeah. It's it's like the moon landing, right?
Like the moon landing. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They've constructed a world that, because of its artificial news, is the same way, right? News is designed to be fake in a way that makes the real world seem real by contrast. It's all part of one big.
Well, this is why it's so easy. This is why it's so easy for bad actors to just like make the fake news criticism, right?
Yeah.
It's because it's like everyone's kind of aware at some level in their consciousness of like, well, yes, this is constructed. This isn't exactly reality. It's some kind of like slightly mimetic representation of reality that's being passed along through a medium, and so people get confused about what that means. But it's
I think I'm paraphrasing. I think it was Baudrillard who said this about Disneyland. That's what its job was to make the rest of California appear to be real.
Yeah,
I think it was Baudrillard. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That
now we're just living in that world.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're correct. It's that's from simulacra and simulation, right?
Exactly, and that's the difference. You got that, chat? You understand the difference between simulacra and a simulation? There's going to be a quiz.
Right. So what he said was Disneyland. Disneyland is there to hide the fact that Disneyland is real.
Right. Right. This is a very Mackenzie Work point, by the way. Gamer Theory, which is the best. It's such a good book. Makes this point in relationship to I don't know, The Sims or something.
Right.
And video games in general. Sure. Like yeah.
Right. Just like what's the Baudrillard comparison is what like he says that prisons exist to hide the fact that all of society is like functions in the same way as a carceral state, right? Boom. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's like a little bit of political philosophy. So yeah, that you are seeing the real world either way. Don't worry about it. That's the upshot.
Stop swatting each other.
Yeah, exactly. That's dangerous.
Hoaxes are fun. Just stops the swatting. Yeah.
So this is our big business news of the day, and I guess this is basically a epic press release that's been passed along the Sci-Fi Wire that more and more big budget TV and movie productions or streaming productions are just using Unreal for effects, and it's a lot cheaper than, I don't know, hiring Industrial Light and Magic, right? Like that's like Unreal is you can get it looking pretty darn good, good enough for your movie, and you do not have to pay George Lucas $10 gazillion in order to make it for you, or DreamWorks or Weta Digital or any of those places. And yeah, I don't know. I guess this is just the continued like entertainment world takeover attempt of Epic. But here's the interesting thing, and maybe relevant for some people out there in chat. Like, Epic is funding these types of things. Epic's giving people money to do this, right? They're doing these big mega grants, and so if you have like any kind of Unreal project, Epic's just giving away money now.
Sillywood, baby. Time to get on that train. Let's go. We're going to do this again. We're going to do it again. This time we're going to get it right. We're going to embed video games inside cameras, I guess, is the Epic idea. They want cameras to have Unreal in them, and then your actors are on a stage with an LED backdrop that is getting updated with the real-time environment. So it's all. Wait,
is that really a thing? Are they doing this?
That's how they do. Yeah, that's their big push. There's a giant soundstage with a wraparound LED screen. And then the camera is synced up to that. So as the camera is moving around, the background is projected. The actors are standing in front of this projected version of the background. Yeah, it's clear to me that this is going to work super well for every type of scene. It seems really
I feel like maybe that's a little better.
I don't know.
It's a little better.
I'm not a filmmaker. Yeah, but apparently Tisch, the school that the NYU Game Center is a part of at NYU, is doing a partnership with Epic along these lines to explore this whole potential of synthetic cinema and real-time graphics. So rather than doing things in post, you're kind of doing them real time, and so the actors don't have to respond to Tom Selleck in a dog mask and ping pong balls.
Right. I feel bad for for actors that have to do purely with ping pong balls and green screen, and maybe this helps them. So that's the way that I'll look at it.
I don't feel bad for those people.
I feel like it must be hard. It must be
They're
hard.
Well compensated.
Yeah, no, they are, but it must be hard to do like a performance in the same way.
I'll do it if they want to switch.
Yeah, nobody wants.
I'm available. Is what I'm saying.
Go for it. I bet you could probably do way better just from the years of experience in video games.
Yeah.
About now, what's going to happen is that we're going to use Unreal to make video games where you are in a green screen, in a green box with a ping pong ball.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the next big hit, the reversal. All right, let's keep on going.
My markers fell off.
And Danny's calling you out. You're going back to your acting career, right?
Danny, just don't is my advice.
Really, I was gonna mention some film titles, but maybe
Danny knows the one he shouldn't mention. Thanks, buddy.
All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, this is another big money. Stuart Butterfield, your old pal.
Stuart Butterfield coming through again.
Yeah, sold Slack for $27.7 billion.
Do people know the story with this?
No, I think you should
briefly say it.
Yeah,
okay,
you should.
So this guy Butterfield made a video game, or made an online game. It was a browser-based. It was a whimsical browser-based MMO called Game Never Ending, and it was an early kind of it was experimental and cool and fun, and that turned into Flickr, the photo sharing thing, and sold for billions and billions of dollars. So Game Never Ending ended. And then Flickr went on to be this one. So then Stuart Bubble came back and said, I'm going to do another video game, and this time I'm going to make it really good. It's going to survive and be great. And he made a video game called Glitch, which was another kind of whimsical, eccentric,
very whimsical
social game.
So whimsical.
Was working on it for a while, I think.
So whimsical that that a bunch of people loved it, and everyone else had never heard of it. And that was,
but that evolved into Slack. So in both cases, there was like a tool that they had built that kind of spun off and became its own business. And then this one just got sold for 27 billion, which I thought was a typo. I thought, how can it be more than 26 billion is what I thought. No, I didn't think that, but it was, anyway, good for him. It's interesting. The relationship of video games to software is a really kind of unsettled, uncertain thing. I think in some ways, this demonstrates the fact that designed software is still just a new thing. Much, despite the fact that we sort of have UX, UI as a discipline, and we sort of have interaction design as a discipline, it's still rather novel for people to design software thoughtfully from the perspective of the user. And so game design, among other things, is also a kind of just ahead of the curve in terms of thinking about mindfully creating software experiences. And so that might be one of the lessons, to draw from this success.
Yeah, it's just shocking whenever I see this happen. Like some tool that game developers were making. Yeah, I don't know. It just turns out to be better, more compelling, like a more entertaining experience than, I don't know, the 18th iteration of a software interface that some people at Microsoft or Adobe have been sitting around slowly tweaking for decades. It's
the problem with that theory is that neither Flickr nor Slack are really substantially different from their competitors. They're not. I mean, they're okay. I think Flickr is better than like Google PhotoShare, but not substantially, right?
Well,
Slack is fine.
Slack is doing well and sold for this amount of money because it bundles together like a bunch of features in one package where it's kind of all there, and it works reasonably well, and the interface is not terrible, right? And that's actually better than most competing products, right? Like, and that's all you have to be. And I think there is some connection. I'm not sure if I could totally articulate what it is between developing interfaces and including features for games, where we're always kind of like doing it on the fly and like reinventing crap way too much, and that kind of success, where it's like it's very inverted from a lot of how like successive versions of big software packages like Photoshop or Microsoft Office work. So I don't know. And Poshy Poshlad is asking about Discord. I think Discord's actually not doing bad either. I think they're just they're didn't think about business enough, right? They didn't pivot hard enough towards the business world. They've only recently started trying to reach out beyond gaming. I don't know. I like Discord a little bit better, but they I don't know. There's something that's still slightly janky about it. Mm-hmm. All right. So, let's keep on going. Congratulations, Stuart Butterfield. Give some money to Game School.
Good job, team.
Oh, so this one is really interesting. And maybe people in chat have
give us can we do a quick poll in chat? Who inverts the controls for video games?
Specifically the y-axis.
Yeah, and who inverts the y-axis in
not talking about flight simulators, like in a game where you're controlling a humanoid avatar of some sort. Do you invert the y-axis? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Basically, we're asking. This is the new invert. Like, are you an invert, or are you a normal person?
No one inverts on a mouse. Who's Matthew Robo? Of course, you're not going to invert. You're not a monster. Who inverts using a mouse? I guess is that even a thing?
Yeah. No, we have it looks like a Morphe inverts mouse, not joystick. I've played with an inverted mouse before,
but not on purpose. Sure.
Yeah, no, I've tried it on purpose.
Okay, but you didn't stick with it.
I didn't stick with it, but I understand how it works, right? I don't really have a strong preference between these two, and I think that's sort of true of a lot of people. But apparently, according to this Guardian article, that they published an earlier article about this, and it created a huge firestorm of controversy, which I guess probably just means a lot of people were yelling at each other in comments. Yeah, and so
the article is about a scientist who's going to do a big study, right?
Right, that's right. Yeah. So now I think in part because of the pandemic, and this is like doing studies with video games, so it's actually slightly easier to do during a pandemic. They're going to study like, what types of psychological measures correlate to whether people use or prefer inverted y-axis, right? And so one of the things they're looking at is it about how you mentally rotate shapes in your head, which is a type of skill that some people are better at than others.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Can I hazard a theory? So
Sure.
I want to pre-register my theory about the results of this. It's going to be whichever one you learned first.
Right.
Okay. I think this is like driving on the left side or driving on the right side. I think it is largely a matter of convention. I don't think there is any kind of foundational truth about which one of these is better psychologically or more efficient. I think it really is an equilibrium, and
Right.
and you can have multiple equilibria. Just people sort according to what they encountered.
Right. So like Matthew Robo is saying about starting with certain types of sims.
Yep.
But I think that's one of the things that they're looking at, and that was one of the things that I guess this previous discussion in the Guardian was arguing about. I'm really curious to see whether that's the case. For me, like having used both, it's a very different sensation. It's like, is the pivot around which I'm looking up and down, is it inside my skull or is it in front of my face somewhere, right? Like that's the like difference in sensation for me. Because if it's inverted, then it's like maybe about this far in front of my head, and then that makes sense to like, it's on like a seesaw, right? Whereas if it's inside my skull,
these things can matter. Like there's another article here that you included, Naomi, where the person is saying that it's a matter of empathy. Do you empathize with the character or not? Which I found a little, I bristled a little bit about, okay, let's frame this as a moral, as a moral judgment. And about like whether
the other way around. It's the other way around.
Are you imagining the camera as a character or not? Which again, I think this person tells the story in their article that this is the way they learned, right? They learned by playing on Super Mario 64.
Well,
and then it just so happens
right.
that this is a reflection of their intrinsic quality of empathy that they have for the people around them.
His empathy for Lakitu, who's the guy in the cloud holding the camera.
I just think, let's not frame this as a moral issue.
But who's going to empathize? Who cares about Lakitu?
Having said that, also. But having said that, I mean, these things do matter and can matter. If you think about the perspective, linear perspective itself is a technology. It was developed in the Renaissance, and it was a technique that was introduced and people understood it. And it changed the way art looked, and it changed the viewer's relationship to art. We talk about this in Games 101 this semester. When you are looking at a linear perspective image, you're reading it more like iconically in a sense. And it's like the word of God, and you're just observing it. You're just kind of witnessing it. When you stand in front of a perspectival simulation, it's like you're standing in front of a window peering into this little simulated world. And all of a sudden, you're like, yeah, I'm standing right outside the window looking at St. John the Baptist. I am also in this world. And so they kind of like, certain scholars suggest that is, mirrors a shift towards humanism, right? Away from this idea that we are specks observing images and trying to interpret them like icons because they're the word of God. And all of a sudden, it's like the lines of the perspective that disappear, like you said, that create a pivot point,
into your head, right?
And bring you into the space. Now all of a sudden, you're like, you know what? I'm kind of in this world too, and I'm like walking around, and I'm a thing in the world. Like the appearance of the individual as a concept, right, sort of accompanies this shift in the technology of representation. So I will say it's possible that things like this can matter. In this case, I don't think they do.
Yeah, I think it's more interesting as something that maybe people argue about than anything else.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What I've noticed, if anything, over the years is that this perspectival thing, it really is extremely fluid. It moves around like all the time, right? It's not like you get just stuck one way or another.
Right. We used to think that first person was a genre unto itself. And now we just realize that it's not. People slip in and out of first person, and we can just do it. And there is no huge phenomenological shift. Mitu did a lot of good work on this. Mitu Kandekar, Game Center faculty member, wrote her thesis on this topic. And it's
I just say I was refreshed at seeing this article with somebody arguing that they were empathizing for whoever's holding the camera, because I am still scarred from having arguments in print with Warren Spector back in the early 2000s, where he was arguing have you no empathy? Like, how can you prefer anything but the first person camera? Like, the great games are all going to be first person in 3D, because then you can really be like inside and connected with and identical with and feel 100% empathy with a character in the world. And only then will we know what it is to fall in love and cry like as a character.
Wow, second time Warren Spector has gotten dissed on this week's episode.
Wait, did we already talk about Warren?
Yeah, because I was making fun of Deus Ex.
Oh, Deus Ex, exactly.
But I know he's a huge fan of the show, and he's probably, if you're in the chat, Warren, we apologize. We love you, buddy.
Yes, it's true. There's
pre-Raphaelite games now, says Milan. I agree with Milan on this
one. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next link. Oh, okay, we're on to the Miles Morales section of our show this week. I think, we want to give a shout out for this article, especially to Evan Narcisse, longtime friend of the Game Center, formerly taught our class on games journalism, and was sort of, one of the consulting writers for the new Spider-Man game. Also, one of the main writers, one of the lead writers in the writing room, I think one of 3 or 4 main writers, is Mary Kenny, a former student at the Game Center, who, we can't call her an alumni because about halfway through her MFA, she came to me and she was like, should I just leave and take this job at Telltale? And I was like, well, let's talk about it for about 4 hours. And then I guess that caused her to leave, so.
I think we can call her an alumni. How about that?
Okay,
how about that?
We're going to call her alumni. All right, yeah, from alumni Mary Kenny, wrote this game. I was encouraged. Well, the story around this game is encouraging to me because I just see the fingerprints of people that we know, like Evan, right? Thinking about how do we make this game more interesting in terms of representing specific communities in New York, which sort of was totally absent from the first one. And then actually the LA Times ran a review of this game as well. I think it's the next link down, Logan, that where this article is all about, the relationship of Miles Morales as Spider-Man to the cops is completely different because he's a black kid from Brooklyn. And that the whole take on New York is like politically different than the first game, which was kind of blithe in a very, I don't know, early 2010s way.
Did they include more of Harlem than the earlier games?
Apparently not. So here's the thing: it takes place on exactly the same map as the previous game.
The engine cuts off the whole top of the.
Yeah. So and this is a strange thing about Spider-Man games. Yeah, Logan, just feel free to pull up practically any of those. Going all the way back to early games, although I guess you have to zoom out. Yeah, like Manhattan is always truncated in these Spider-Man games. It always gets cut off like right north of Central Park. Like Morningside Heights, my old neighborhood, is like the northernmost point in Manhattan. So yeah, all the long part. And I don't know, I've never really run into an easy explanation as to why that is. I mean, I know that section of Manhattan is really long and skinny. Is
that a real building?
No, that's the Avengers Tower, Frank.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's on top of Grand Central Station.
I was like, wow, I've really been, I've been away too long.
Yeah, and actually, it's maybe a little bit further uptown. It's near the Met. It's sort of sad that I know where Avengers Tower is, but I do.
Look at that. That's obscene.
Yeah, that's what I call chubby Manhattan. It's actually my favorite Spider Manhattan from Yeah, Spider Manhattan. That's what I'm going to call these now.
What is it? What's the cute style of anime? Chiba? No, what am I thinking of?
Chibi? Yeah, Chibi Manhattan.
It's Chibi Manhattan.
This is like a Chibi Manhattan. This is, I think it's from The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one. Yep. And it's true, as Jem says. Oh, that one's so cute. I love that Manhattan.
It's like a potato. It's like a little round. It's like just it's as round it's as wide as it is long.
I know, if Manhattan was shaped like this, I might move back there.
It's adorable. And look how convenient. You got ports on every side. You could plug in whatever you want. It's like a multi-plug.
Look how tiny Central Park is. It's like the size of like Sunset Park or someplace like that.
It's very cute. That's a good word. They should build that at Universal Theme Studio. I would like to run around in that.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I don't know. Northern Manhattan always gets short shrift here. But at least in this latest version of Spider-Man, there are no longer towers on top of every building performing surveillance on.
We're also going to talk about the animation style that they did, where they tried to recapture I don't know. Help me out, chat. On the twos, how is Spider-Verse animated in a way that makes it look so good?
I forget the technical term. Yeah,
animation technique where it's kind of like, it's not trying to be completely seamless, but you're trying to kind of like see the frames a little bit, and they tried to do it in the game as well to mix results. Some people love it.
Have not. Yeah, I'm curious. I haven't seen a visual analysis of that yet, but I'd love to look at it. I imagine that.
Milan is saying it's on the twos, so I'm going to take that as a victory for.
There you go, shooting
Frank.
On two. Yeah, good job, Frank. Good job.
Thank you,
A+ in animation class for you.
No.
All right, let's keep on going past Miles Morales. Okay. And like, what else do we have in here? Nintendo. Well, yeah, we were giving a shout out to Nintendo team up with Universal theme parks in Japan, but now they're back to their old hijinks. I don't understand. I have never understood what Nintendo's problem is with the Smash Brothers community. Like, what is your understanding? Like, what's behind this?
They like control. They want to control. They
want
to control their games, control their image. Remember, Nintendo has a deep relationship to the seal of quality coming in after the big video game crash. Like Nintendo having this very tight grip on quality is what allowed it to thrive. And maybe is what kind of like there's a whole story that kind of like rescued video games as an industry at that time. And so they really are dedicated to control, and the Melee community is out of control in the best possible way. I love them, and of course you got to root for them in this battle. Like
what are they doing?
Empire and the Melee community are the lovable rebels, and I'm all in on my support for them.
Well, I totally agree, but I don't even understand what they could be doing that's so objectionable. I mean, I've worked for large companies with control issues.
They're using a mod. They're using a community-based mod that allows you to play Smash online.
Oh, okay. That's basically
that's what the substantive issue is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
Nintendo. Come on, get your act together. This one's easy. This one's an easy fix. Just do it. Get with the times. You're gonna do it. Don't drag.
Yeah, they are hopefully eventually gonna do it. Yeah. I mean, when I started working at Lego, back in like 2001 or something, they had similar problems. Right? They were like used to really, really tight control over everything that was owned by Lego, because they had been embroiled in like lawsuits for years with people doing knockoffs and stuff like that. And we, like a whole bunch of people had to work really hard inside that Lego community to get them to do things like make some of their software open source, right? And actually work with fans to to create new sets and stuff like that. But it's not impossible. You can ship these big companies if you just get a little bit of internal dialogue and like leadership to be like, oh, I guess maybe we don't have to think about this in exactly the same way that we did back in 1984.
Yeah. So shout out to the Splatoon teams and all the Splatoon competitors who changed their names and changed the names of their teams to show support for the Melee community. Nintendo shut down the Splatoon, refused to show the Splatoon finals. It was really bad. It was like, Trump level kind of spluttering, pompous, dictatorial jerkiness. So
I really think they should.
Nintendo, bad, boo. 2 thumbs
Yeah,
down.
they deserve to suffer from from their top players. And I think this is what's interesting. Of course, we've seen this a ton in professional sports, in the non-digital analog sports, right? That athletes, the top athletes, have a lot of have a big platform. They have a lot of pull. They can protest. They can make a difference.
I don't think I don't think there's any of that dynamic in the Splatoon esports community.
There could be.
I think everyone. I think everything there is just Nintendo itself. It's like a lost leader.
Take a knee for Melee. Take a knee for Melee. Splatoon. Yeah.
It's just PR. From their point of view, it's like, well, this is all us paying for PR anyway. So
I guess
it should be, But anyway, and then I think there's another Nintendo thing, which is that they're shutting down, or they're telling they're tightening up the rules about what kind of Animal Crossing islands you can have.
Right.
No political stuff, no advertising.
Yeah, so
here I think they're on more even ground. I think vaguely sympathetic. They don't want advertising in Animal Crossing.
Right. That's not the no advertising.
You don't want to turn it into Second Life.
But that's just like any kind of any community forum, right? It has a sort of don't come on here and spam your ads rule.
Yeah.
But the no politics, that's the one that's a little bit oh, really interesting. Well, and I guess I don't know. I guess this article is interpreting it as Nintendo's being family friendly or whatever. But it's a little bit of a reach, I think, to say don't talk about it.
Given the other stuff they're doing, I'm inclined to not give them benefit of the doubt on this one. So let's say, come on, Nintendo, get your act together. Let's go.
Electoral politics in Japan, I have to say, are a little bit different than in the United States. They tend to be a lot more obnoxious and in your face. To the
you see that movie about that guy that gets elected he's like a mayor or something? It's a great movie. Anyway, I can't even think of the name of it. I saw it.
A mayor in Japan?
Yeah, it was like local politics. It's a documentary about this guy.
He's out there just being please take a packet of tissues.
It was super intense and interesting, and an insight into a political system that's very, very different. But anyway, I'll think of the title. So.
But what Grundislav is saying, there were Biden-Harris signs in Animal Crossing. That's people are speculating that might be part of what precipitated this. So those would be disallowed by Nintendo's new rules, right? And they can say okay, we're banning your Nintendo accounts. And Gemstone's question, yes, Japanese politicians are way more obnoxious than U.S. politicians. U.S. politicians are smarmy, man. They're smarmy. They're trying to be cool like the kids and kiss up to you and make you think that they're just cool, regular people. Japanese politicians are not trying to do that. They're much more obnoxious and in your face. They're just that. When I say in your face, they're literally 6 inches from your face yelling at you about how you have to vote for them. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it gets really, there were scenes outside of subway stops where it's super intense because there'd be 6 or 7 different candidates, each with their own setup and megaphones and banners.
Yeah, just screaming really loudly. Yeah. It's so I can see if there's that kind of stuff going on in AC, why that might be different for Nintendo Japan. All right, let's keep on going. Enough Nintendo.
Let's watch this Tetris
beautiful
clip.
Yeah, this is lovely.
Watch the guy on the left. Look at this. Oh, so tragic.
No, wait, isn't it? But it's the guy on the left.
Watch him go. Yeah. Watch him dig.
Oh yeah.
This is the dig of the century.
There he goes. Yeah, this is.
There he goes.
Oh man, it's coming now. Kaboom! Oh, that's good. And these two are brothers. They're brothers. That's
really?
That's awesome. This is the championship game between two brothers. It was a 13-year-old versus a 15-year-old, and the 13-year-old won the Tetris World Championships. So
he's getting swirly tonight.
Good job, dog. He's really...
Look at how they hold. Did you know that this is how people played competitive Tetris? They hold the controller sideways. They seem to all.
I've seen people play Tetris that way.
The NES controller vertically. Yeah, it looks intense. Good job. I love good Tetris. Good competitive Tetris is really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's check out this link. Watch it. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Congratulations, dog.
Good job, dog.
What do you think? We've got like 15 minutes left. Should we skip forward to that Atlantic article?
Let's work our way in and then just hit it and quit it. Otherwise, we'll talk all day.
Good idea. Let's go to the next one.
Fashion thing going.
Fashion trend. Yeah, and so there's another article we didn't get to last week where Balenciaga is launching their own mysterious game this week. I don't think it's out yet, but also the LA Times has this article about video games as the new runway. Now, that's probably maybe a little bit of an overstatement, but if you read through this article, overstatement. Yeah, it's an overstatement. But if you read through this article, I'm kind of amazed at how many designers, like, Bathing Ape, even, and like a bunch of other designers of various sizes and reputes are rolling out fashion in conjunction with game companies. A lot of it is with League.
Yeah. And one of those articles is very much like a New York Times style article where there's maybe one or two of these things happening and they kind of spin it up into like, oh, there's a whole scene. As like, because if you look at this, you're like, oh, is this happening in video games? And then you say, okay, well, that's KDA, which is the fake pop group that is used in the League of Legends averse, and so it's not exactly in the game. And then there's a shot of Jane Fonda with some sneakers in The Sims, and so there's like one or two of these things happening.
And then there's a bunch of Animal Crossing.
Like a lot of talk of Animal Crossing and how much people love their Animal Crossing fashion, but it's kind of aspirational. It should happen more.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I mean, I think it's something that certainly could happen more. I'm sort of glad that Riot is doing this. I'm not real bullish on a lot of Riot stuff, but I'm like, yeah, if you have a bunch of money, you should be like hiring some fashion designers to do cool stuff to have cool looks in your game. Why not? Right? Like games could use more of that. It's an area where.
Here's the thing that made me think of. There's a complementary thing happening where there are games that are tapping into fashion as a business model in a way. So I'm thinking of the work that my buddy Mark Hagan is doing over at Wizards of the Coast, the publishers of Magic: The Gathering. Mark Hagan got a job, game designer, got a job over there in kind of product development with the design team. And one of the ideas, he's a huge, like a hype beast sneaker head. And so he did this thing called Secret Lair, which is like limited edition, like drops that you can only get for, like within a short window. And they're often crossovers between two different brands. So he just did one for the Walking Dead, which is very controversial. And a lot of the traditional Magic fans were very upset by it. But definitely using this idea of the kind of marketing and branding and business model of fashion, but within the context of a collectible card game. So it's interesting to see it work both ways.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. There's just so many lessons that could be learned. I don't know. I feel like it's overdue. Like games and fashion, like we sometimes compare games and music, right? But fashion is a really interesting comparison too, for so many different reasons.
It's interesting the way IP works in fashion, which is basically there is none. The only thing you can protect is your mark, which is one of the reasons why a big part of luxury fashion is the pattern that is the mark, Dior or Louis Vuitton or whatever. In my case, Comme des Garçons. No, but it is. Instead, there's this like fluid relationship between streetwear and high fashion, where the high fashion is always like pulling from streetwear, and then streetwear is instantly copying high fashion.
Well, yeah,
it's are just really like fluidly. It's just a big churn, and no
just
one's
waves and waves of
IP.
cycles and trends and things coming going. I don't know. I admire that.
Yeah, I kind of do too. And there's like, it's not that there isn't authorship within fashion. It's not like people don't have brands that they're proud of.
And people can tell that like some people are better at make better things than others, right?
Right. It's just a totally different type of relationship. Again, it's kind of a different equilibrium. There's different ways of organizing this stuff, just like there's different ways of doing the axis on a, and it's more like driving on the left side or driving on the right side. I don't know if it works for people in fashion. I don't know if they love it or hate it, but it's a different model and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
Okay.
Let's keep going. Oh, this is
Game UI database can't get in.
Can't get in. Right. So Game UI database, it's up. It's not up. It's down. It's a new website that is exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of a great idea.
Really good idea.
Yeah, it's really good idea, but it's down because it's flooded with traffic. So bookmark it now. Maybe you'll be able to get in a week. Once
I often want screenshots specifically to understand the UI of different games. A game like Ape Out, for example. It's just really a masterpiece of
right there UI, on the front. Yeah. So, congrats to Ape Out being on the front page of the of the game UI.
They're going to get the game UI database bump.
But yeah, I predict that this is going to be a resource which will come in handy for a bunch of people in the future, including
now
students. All right, and then it's still down. And then last, here's your injection of non-game stuff for this week. It's a really long read. I want to know, for all of you in chat, I'd love to know what you think of this article. I've been kind of chewing on it and talking to people about it. This is an article about a guy whose background is in population dynamics of insects, but really sort of across lots of different ecological fields, and saying he came up with this idea of like, well, actually, there are these generalizable laws you can find out, discover about population dynamics across many different species, like that they can apply to bugs, they can apply to fish, and so forth. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to do that for human beings too. And so then he founded this field that he's calling cliodynamics, after the muse of history, and saying, I've discovered some laws of history. And he predicted 10 years ago that 2020 was going to be a shit year. And so then who is it? Was it Ross Douthat or someone in here is like, I ignored him until 2020 turned out awful. And then I was like, maybe there's
wait a minute, Ross Douthat likes this guy? Okay, now I'm interested.
Was it Ross Douthat? Yeah, it's Ross Douthat.
It was.
I
started getting a little bit skeptical when I think it's a super interesting article, and it's relevant to games in the sense that this person is trying to apply statistical mathematical models to looking at historical development and dynamics. He's specifically inspired by the fictional science from the Asimov series,
I love
Foundation series. So the famous science fiction series Foundation has this as a speculation that you could develop a computable model of history, and that would be solved. And so
except it's the inverse, right? Because the Foundation version, it's like there's individuals that you have to track, and like those individuals are like.
Oh, I thought it was all statistical. Like we can average out like any individual you can't predict, but over time you can average out all the individuals and predict large scale trends.
I'm pretty sure that Asimov's in this way that's very driven by the need for drama, right? He's an author's taste for like, there's this one crucial pivot. It's like, and it leans into then the great man theory of history, right? That like there's this one person that you kill that person, then it's going to change everything.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy's inspired by science fiction and obsessed with math.
Right.
So I mean, it's game relevant.
Yeah, it is game relevant, but
it's like the people they compared him to. They're like, well, first of all, he's wrong. Okay, I'll bet against this guy because everybody's wrong most of the time. Like this is you can't like he's making a very very specific and concrete prediction based on his pet model, and when 99% of the time when people do that, they're wrong. So I will bet against this guy. Whatever, it's fine.
He was right about 2020 being horrible.
Right, but that's the thing. It's like whatever. So so this is just a fun way of talking about. This is just an intellectual version of wasn't 2020 a dumpster fire? You know what I mean? Yeah, we're all enjoying how bad 2020 was, and this guy gets to have his moment in the sun, and it's interesting, and his work seems interesting. I'm not saying it's bad. I think there should be people developing these kinds of models and making these kinds of speculation. We should just assume that most of them are incorrect.
We can take them with a grain. We can take with a grain of salt. We can say like, that's an interesting lens to look at things through, right? If we look at like his way of saying like, well, just like pine beetles, there end up being too many humans or something like that, right? I don't know. I take it about as seriously as I would Malthus. Right, like if somebody came along with like a neo-Malthusian.
Malthus super important. Like it was, Malthus had a very strong model that he was overconfident in.
That's right.
Demonstrated that we're going to hit these walls, we're going to run out of resources, we're inevitably going to have this population explosion, and that's going to be what the future is. Well, we don't have a population explosion. It turns out that Malthus was wrong, that the world is more complicated than his models. But Malthus contributed very much to knowledge by having this incorrect model and by having people, critique it.
Right. And so, I don't even know how much we should laugh at people who have these incorrect models, right? Because
we shouldn't laugh.
Yeah, no, we should just be like, well, thank you for making that model, and then like ignore their rants about how their model is perfect. Politely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should take it lightly. And the people that he's compared to, for example, right off the bat, they're like, oh, well, this is like Jared Diamond, Guns, Germs, and Steel. Well, Jared Diamond things did not work out great for Jared Diamond's theory that he presented in Guns, Germs, and Steel. It's a smart book. And it's an interesting theory about how
it's fun to read.
Right? Jared Diamond's theory was that ultimately it's the physical resources that basically set the course for how any civilization or how any culture evolves. So it's like how close it is to certain things, how much of certain natural resources it has, these physical properties, guns, germs, and steel, right? And but that's not a going. People don't love that theory.
They're over determining everything, right? It's like, I don't know. It's if there's anything that like I find critical, like that worth criticizing here, it's this idea that we have to sell these theories with some kind of like sexy simplification or whatever is going on in these people's minds, to be like, look, if you boil it all down, it's about this one thing. When that's always going to be like a bad way of putting it. And they probably realize that since there seem to be smart people.
Right.
But yeah,
there's a funny relationship also to Marx, right? So Marx is a quintessential example of this kind of one model, one central kind of guiding dynamic. And that's the key. There's one weird trick is the key to all of history, right? And this guy comes from Russia, and it's not clear what his relationship is to Marxian thought. But his stuff is not particularly Marxian, but it has the same contours, right? It's the same idea of like, look, I can paint the vector of history, and I can see that in his case, this new guy's case, it is this overproduction of elites, right? The idea that through college, basically, we're producing more and more and more of this elite class, and there's not enough jobs for them to do. Basically, there are not enough elite jobs for all of these people. So that develops a counter elite.
Right. So that I think is the most gripping part of this theory, because it's the part that is formed just like like an antibody, right, or a virus for that matter, to like just slot into a narrative that already exists about like what's going on in the world, right? Because that's the key to having a theory that's popular, is that there's a great story about it. When people read it, they're like, oh my gosh, counter elites, you're right. These people are like washed up, like second-rate fail sons who like thought they were going to get guaranteed a good Christian job or a powerful position, and then they couldn't get it, and so they all just signed on to the Trump bandwagon or whatever. Right? They're like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense now. Right? So that doesn't mean it bears any relationship to the truth, but it's a very good story.
I do think that the kinds. I think it's interesting his particular theories about the mechanisms that he sees, and I think some of those there might be some real validity to.
Yeah, I agree.
However, it's the thing that's missing. It's not just that things are complicated. It's that in the development of nations and cultures, there is genuine creativity. That people invent, for example, new kinds of technologies for democracy, like new kinds of voting technologies, right? New kinds of collective decision-making technologies that are new kinds of organizing people, like new kinds of currency, right? New kinds of like
money,
new kinds of
communication.
New
stuff that we can't predict because it's a little bit too emergent.
Right. Those things are going to have a big impact. So the institutions and technologies and norms of culture that we develop, those things have influence, and they are the result of creativity. And creativity is by its nature something that cannot be predicted, because that's what it means. That's what being creative means. It means not being just the result of physics not being just the result of population dynamics, but being the result of thought and criticism and communication in a shared way, proposing ideas and allowing them to be criticized. And then, you know what I mean? Like that, that's never going to fit into a model because models sit on top of that.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, you've got no argument from me here. Like I was talking to a biologist this weekend about this stuff, and he said that he thinks that part of what's happening with like people like Turchin is that they're buying into like a certain type of determinism, actually, that he associated with Daniel Dennett or and folks like that. That we don't really have that much control over the course of history or what happens next, and that it's possible that maybe we can predict stuff because it's so deterministic. And that also would seem to like maybe cut creativity out. Now, I don't know if Daniel Dennett would actually agree with that, but yeah, I don't know.
Like, in any event, I'm taking bets against this guy. If anyone wants to lay the odds, happy to talk off.
Yeah. So you're betting, what are you betting against? That we're going to have another 5 to 10 years of hard road ahead of us? That's his main prediction.
Oh, I thought you meant what currency am I betting in? I was going to say bells.
Yeah, bells. There you go. Yeah. So you heard it here first. Play the stock market, the SPALK market against Frank Lantz and Turchin.
And for civilization continuing as we've come to be accustomed to it, which is
in some
rickety, broken AF, but basically, partially operational.
Yeah, staggering along,
and continuing to gradually get better,
but while causing enormous suffering at the same time.
There are ups and downs. It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, totally. Let's overthrow some more tyrants. That's what democracy is for, right? Voting people out.
That's exactly what it's for.
Yeah. All right, we're going to leave it there. I think we're just about out of time. We'll actually wrap up on time for a change, and we will see you guys here next week for the last discourse of 2020.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Logan, Mirabai, and as always, thank you, chat.
Yep. Thanks. Thank you so much, Mirabai of Stenonite Cart Services, for excellent transcription as always. And Logan, all of you guys.
How do people submit links, Naomi? We love the people sending us stories. How do they do it?
I think the easiest way is if you just tweet at me or Frank. We'll collect it.
Tweet at us.
Yes, tweet
I am at FLance on Twitter. Naomi, you are at
Medicine SYNTHIE. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Tweet at us. We eat them up.
Yep. Send us the links.
Stories. Yep.
Cool. See you guys later.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Discourse. Once again, your news hosts have been Naomi Clark and Frank Lantz. I was your behind-the-scenes operator, Logan Clare. Graphics are by Winnie Song, and captioning was by Mirabai Knight of Stenonite Cart Services. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Please tune in next week for our last discourse of the semester. Bye-bye.